most of you know who he is, but I'll give you the, I don't know, dummy's guide to Dan, just in case. He went to Hong Kong in 1997 to check out the handover, but ran out of cash. To tide him over, he took some modeling gigs and became acting jobs. And following up on those gigs with a lot of hard work, he's become one of Asia's top actors and a respected filmmaker. Anyone else have microphones? This is the time. No? Okay. So, this year he released his first feature, The Heavenly Kings. So, imagine if Brad Pitt decided to start a boy band with actor friends, whipped up the paparazzi into a frenzy, and revealed the entire thing to be the basis of a mockumentary that examined the lameness of the entertainment industry. That's what he did, and earned Best New Director at the Hong Kong Film Awards. So here's the trailer, and even if you don't understand Cantonese, it's pretty clear that he has ample talent and no shame. This is the Heavenly Kings trailer. Over there. Yeah. Basically, it detailed the making of a boy band. And I was wondering, when you started acting, one of the things you told me, because we knew each other kind of, you said that you were never going to acquiesce to the industry's efforts to get you to sing or be a boy toy.
Right.
And then you formed this band,
Right.
Like were you worried about ruining your reputation as a cool guy or looking like a fool?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, because I said so many times that I was not going to sing because I don't buy into that that image of that you have to be an all-around entertainer, which is what a lot of people do in Asia to make more money. So when I first started, because we couldn't tell anybody what we were really doing, even my closest friends thought I was really doing this boy band thing, so they were like, "What are you doing, man? Why are you doing this?" And yeah, I had to deal with that kind of embarrassment for that year and a half of all these people questioning all my actions. And then when the movie came out, it was like, oh, I see, Yeah, but it was a difficult thing in the beginning to get over that. And it was also very hard because it's not my personality at all. And to play that role of this boy band member and have to stand in front of like in Taiwan we were singing for 40,000 people. That's hard. It's a hard thing to do, really hard thing to do.
But do you think the subversive nature of that project, did that come from being raised in America and listening to punk rock and skating? And
reading Giant Robot, yeah, probably. No, seriously. I think it did have a lot to do with my own. I think the reason why I did the movie was because I thought it was so strange that in Hong Kong that only one type of music existed, which is karaoke music. And I know all these singers and all these people in the business who complain about it. It's like they have all these abilities. They want to sing jazz, they want to do hip hop, they want to do something else, but they were not allowed to do it from the record companies because they were told that that's not karaokeable. You can't sing that in karaoke, so it doesn't have a value. And so therefore, we can't make a commodity out of it, and therefore we're not going to let you do that. So you got to sing karaoke music. And so a lot of these people felt like they didn't have the power to complain about it or to do anything about it. So I kind of was like fighting for them in a way. But then also, I think this also comes from my background. I grew up in Berkeley, California. I watched bands in the Gilman, and I watched a band like Green Day emerge, and saw real music. And really, I was kind of just making a statement like, hey, there's a lot more out there than just karaoke music. And I also wanted to sort of show that this kind of packaged music is really just that. It's just a package, and that maybe other people can look beyond that.
I think, earlier today, John Jay was saying how, finally people in China and Asia, they're becoming more punk rock. But I think you kind of skipped a couple, you helped leapfrog that whole process of people learning how to be defiant. You just came in with that attitude, sort of.
Yeah, we didn't, it wasn't on purpose. It was just, that was the nature of the thing. And so, we just wanted to show people, don't be afraid. A lot of people in Hong Kong are afraid to be different. afraid to be subversive or afraid to be alternative because it's kind of looked down upon sometimes. But we're like, no, be the black sheep, be the black sheep and be something different because that's where real creativity comes from. It's from people doing something different outside of the norm and pushing the boundaries, right? And so we wanted to lead. We're not really purposely leading by example, but we just want to do it, and just do it and let people judge it on their own.
Yeah, well, I thought it was cool. Not only were you labeled as, this punk who was, fucking with people, but also, I think also maybe a lot of critics who thought you were just this good-looking guy. I think suddenly they saw that you were very intelligent and this plan, execution, and level of criticism towards the industry.
I mean, I guess that was the subversive part because nobody saw it coming, And I wanted to play up on that actually. I mean, everyone kind of expects you because you're a good-looking guy to be a singer or to take advantage of that route and do that and not have any integrity about it. But I was like, I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm not going to do it in my own way, So we did.
So when you watch it, are you more embarrassed or proud?
The movie?
Yeah.
No, I'm proud of the movie. I'm embarrassed about watching the parts where we're singing, and trying to be this boy band that we really weren't. But I mean, that was the funny part of it. That was what was fun about it, was playing this role. And as an actor, you talk about method acting. Like, this was real method acting for sure, because we had to play this role for a year and a half and be this boy band. And we actually believed that. I mean, we actually had fun doing it. And we're a good group, chemistry-wise, we got along together really well.
So now that it's been over for a while, I mean, are people ready to start throwing you cash for a union sort of thing? Or?
No, but I think a lot of people don't realize that it was fake, that it wasn't real, because we still get people asking us to do concerts and to do commercials and things like that. And we have to tell them, sorry, it's not happening. A lot of it is dead,
I'm sure a lot of that is the same, industry people or corporates that you were kind of making fun of, right?
Yeah.
They never got it.
Yeah, no, a lot of people didn't get it, they didn't understand. And a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, they still want to make money, right? But it really was never really about making money, So in fact, we didn't make much money off of it. We broke even, but we didn't make a lot of money, so that's good.
Well, let's talk about some of your earlier work.
Okay.
I know you've done a bunch of movies with Derek Eve.
Yeah.
And including this year's crime movie, The Prodigy, with Andy Lau. And that weird movie, Drink, Drink, Drunk. I'm still not sure what was going on there. But I really liked One Night in Bangkok. So let's watch that trailer. I think we have that. Hopefully people can see through the bright lights if they haven't seen this movie before.
想關我關唔到，想見我撞到正。
The purpose that I intended, but it's pretty rad. The clip, it doesn't really show it, and it's probably hard to see today, but it hints at you getting your head bashed in on a doorknob multiple times. And I think that scene lasts a couple minutes, and it's really hard to watch. People always talk about how stunts in Hong Kong movies are crazy. Was that one of those? Or?
Not really. It was actually kind of fun doing it.
Oh yeah.
Because we knew kind of the effect it would have. Because I think what's so violent about that one scene is that you don't actually see my head hitting the doorknob. You see the other side of the doorknob and see it shaking, and in your mind what's happening, and your mind is imagining the violence there. So actually, it's playing on the audience's violence in their own mind. It's bringing out the dark side of the audience, which is why it's so effective. It's so scary. I mean, you see that happen in Pete Takeshi's films a lot. The violence happens off of the screen.
And it's a spray of blood against
the spray of blood, and the sound of the violence, and that is almost more scarier than seeing it. It's also why guys like seeing girls in lingerie rather than being naked. They want to imagine. So I think the success of this movie in some ways was certain things like that, elements like that in the film.
Well, then let's talk about the more, I guess, the less cerebral scenes and the more, physical, gnarly scenes.
Right.
Can you tell me about some of those situations, in other movies, maybe? Or?
In other movies, I think the scarier stuff is not really the action, because you prepare for it, you rehearse it and stuff. But sometimes you're put into scary situations, like let's say New Police Story. In the opening, when we're sitting on the edge of this 45-story building, right? We're really sitting on the edge of this 45-story building. And I remember on that day, it's this big building, and there was some holes in the building where there were gardens for the apartments below. And the crew member she was setting some lights, and she fell into the hole, right? It was lucky she could have fallen off the other side, gone off the building completely. It was so dangerous. And then right after that happened, we had to sit on this edge of this building. And it's scary. It's not like Hollywood where their actors are protected really well. We get pushed to certain limits, and but it's fun. I mean, it's exciting. I don't complain about it at all.
I think once you told me that it was scarier to like swim under this flaming pool than it was to like, or that was actually easier.
That wasn't me actually. That was Nicholas. But I was there. I was so scared about it that I was there to help, just in case anything happened.
But in the end, that was easier than like having to kiss your best friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being an actor, you're put up with all these different challenges all the time. And I think the physical ones are kind of easier because I have the background in martial arts and stuff like that. So I understand that. And probably like what you're saying, it's like my first movie, my first on-screen kiss was with a guy. That was probably harder than actually doing any kind of action.
That was kind of like this trial by fire or something, right? Like after that, you could do almost anything, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was an uncalculated risk, I guess, because I didn't know. I just did the movie because I liked it. I liked the script. It was a nice story, an idea about love, whether it was about homosexual love or regular love, it didn't matter. And I did it. And I guess it could have been, it could have ended my career before it started. But in some ways, I think I got a certain amount of respect for being a new person and wanted to try a role like that and challenge myself right away from the get-go. Because I think if my career started in like a Wong Jing movie or something like that, I probably wouldn't be here today, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today in a lot of ways.
I think in a lot of ways, for a long time, that might have been your best movie, even though it was maybe the lowest budget or, not as big commercially. I think that was like your strongest performance for a long time.
Sure, and I mean, there was something there that was really raw about my first performance on screen, I guess. And, people took to that, I guess.
And it kind of made you a hero, right? Among, I don't know, it kind of attracted the pink dollar towards you.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I guess it made a statement that I wasn't afraid of those kind of topics. And in a society like in Asia, where everybody is very conservative, it does make a big impact when you make a statement like that. And you are making a statement by doing a movie like that.
It seems like there are a lot of actors and directors who work together like all the time. I mentioned Derek Yee.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest thing for you as far as I know.
Yeah.
It seems like you've really played the field. Is that something that's helped you as someone who had to kind of figure out acting as you went on?
What?
Acting under different people?
Sure. I mean, I think in the very beginning, and probably the reason why I have such a high count of films right now is because in the beginning I was just doing whatever I got, anything I could get. And just trying it because I didn't have any experience, so I just wanted to try my best to get as much experience as possible. So I did all kinds of movies, I did everything. And there's some movies, that I'm not 100% proud of, but at least I went through them and got through that process. I mean, I did movies that took 6 days to make, real low budget stuff, and now, I'm happy that I did those things because now I know, how lucky I am to be where I am right now.
How long did the peeping take?
The PP, I don't know, I think it took like 12 days, 11 days, something like that.
What about Beauty and the Beast? How long was that?
I don't know. I think 20 some days. That was a little bit long.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I watch all these.
Yeah, Martin's probably one of my biggest fans. And friends.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about? It's still totally unclear to me how you kind of. I tell people that you just became an actor because you needed the money, kind of. Or it was like a job?
No, I was modeling because I needed the money. And then the acting gig basically came from the director, Yong Pan, seeing this advertising I did within my 3rd month of being in Hong Kong. And then he brought me in for a meeting and said he wanted me to be in this movie. And I turned it down at first, not because it was a gay movie, but it was because the script was complicated, the character was complicated. I'd never acted before, and I just didn't want to screw this project up for him, He seemed really passionate about it, and it's not something I took lightly. I didn't have this mentality, I want to be a star, I want to be in a movie, I really kind of cared for this project, because I guess coming from an architectural background, I know what it's like to hire someone and have them not do a good job for you, It kind of sucks, it really sucks, So I told him, I said, look, you know, I don't think I can do this for you, so I turned it down. And then he kept calling me like every other day for like a month. And finally then I said, look, okay, if you don't blame me for if it turns out bad, then I'll do it. And so he said, okay, fine. And so we made that agreement, and I jumped into it. And then once we started filming, I just fell in love with the whole process.
Like, how did that work? Like, before your scene, when you tell you, okay, this is what's happening, or did you get a big script?
I was lucky enough that I was able to have enough time to prep for it. So I was able to try and build the character in as much as I knew how at the time. So I had all these notes, and I wrote out all this stuff like on this character, what his background was, and how to build it as much as because I didn't know what I was doing. But the director was guiding me through that sort of pre-preparation process. And then the other thing was language was a big issue because I wasn't very fluent in Cantonese at the time. I was actually not fluent at all in Cantonese. And I had to work on the language thing. But by that time we started filming, it was such a comfortable atmosphere that I just felt totally comfortable and relaxed. Probably more comfortable than I've ever been in film because it just really was just going for it, you know. Because once you know what you're doing and once you're conscious of what you're doing, you kind of become more nervous and more, you know, worried about your performance. But that time I was like, I'm just happy to get done with the scene, you know what I mean? And then while we were filming, I just fell in love with the whole fact of being on a set and being in this really creative environment where there's all these kinds of people. There's these very blue-collar lighting guys and a very intellectual director and really cool like set people. And they're all there very encouraging and a high level of energy to do this one thing, which is make a movie. And that was something I really loved and really fell in love with. And I was like, man, I want to do this again. But again, being an actor, it's not up to you know. And so really it took someone to hire me for the next movie to actually get my second job.
But it sounds like even from the beginning, you have that same attitude that, you know, the guys in the other room had when they were talking about, you know, designing shoes or selling stuff. Like, there's a real craftsmanship sort of appeal and approach to it, right? It's not about getting famous, but it's about doing your best and
having fun at it, yeah, really. I mean, I think what I saw from Jeff and John and everybody else in that group, Dan, is they really enjoy what they do, they have fun at what they do. And when I was in architecture school, I was really enjoying being a design student. And then when I went out to work in architecture, I realized it wasn't that creative at all. It was maybe like 2% creative, and I was really kind of impressed by that, which is what led me to go to Hong Kong to travel for a bit, because I was like, I don't think I really want to do architecture anymore, because it really isn't as fun as it was in school. And then, you know, getting into the movies and getting to where I am now, I'm having a great time. I mean, it's so much fun.
So when you started though, I mean, you weren't really an actor yet. So did you just have like an appreciation for it, or more than a love for it, or like how
I have to admit
did you
that.
feel like an outsider, I guess?
I don't know, because I guess everybody in the film they were relatively new also. So it felt like we were all kind of in this thing together. We're all learning together how to do it. I probably felt less secure on my like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th movie, you know, because like I said before, you start to get conscious of what you're doing, and then you see yourself on screen, and then you're like, oh, that wasn't good, and blah blah, and you see things that maybe other people don't see, and then you sort of double guess yourself, and blah blah. And it took a long time for me to get past that point.
Yeah.
For a few years after that, to get a point where I began to feel comfortable on screen again.
I want to talk about some of your bigger movies now.
Okay.
Those. We mentioned The Protégé, and you mentioned that you just came from Venice and Toronto, where you attended screenings of The Blood Brothers.
Yeah.
And I don't have a clip for that, but I do have one from The Banquet, which has Zheng Ziyi and Pei, and we kind of showed a trailer for that in the other room, and it didn't work out.
Okay.
But we have the one here that was made for Cannes, and it has a guy with a really deep voice. So,
Okay.
so when you guys hear it, you'll know what I mean.
Famous guy.
Yeah, what I'm talking about.
From China's acclaimed director, Feng Xiaogang. With Yuan Wo-ping, the action choreographer of The Matrix and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Cinematography.
Okay, wait. This might have a second life. Aww.
Right.
And there's some really cool looking scenes too.
Starting already? It was like minus 40 degrees Celsius.
Man is embraced and his head is buried inside Jinxi's bust.
That's fine.
You might get too excited, so it's better to stop. Or I don't know. But hey, when you watch like a trailer between that and the one before, it's very different. You know, like when you hear the deep voice and whatever, like when you see a fancy trailer like that, do you feel like you've reached a certain point or level? You know?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, it's cool to have the voice in your trailer. But I think the real point is working on it. And that process is really important to me nowadays, more so than the final product.
Well, especially as an actor, right? Because that's all you have control over.
Sure, yeah. I mean, really, like I had to sort of get this Zen kind of point of view about things and like sort of give up a lot of things about, and just go, hey, look, just enjoy the process. Like I was interviewing Johnson for the next issue of Giant Robot, and he was talking about how he chooses movies now, and he was saying that really it's about having a good time and being able to find happiness within your work. And part of being able to find happiness in your work is not to worry about every single little detail and just do what you do and have fun with it and make sure. You can choose as an actor whether you want to do this movie or not, and you choose it based on whether you want to work with these people. And it really is, movie making is teamwork. It's not about an individual, trying to show off or trying to steal scenes from people. It's about everybody working together, and it can be fun for everybody. That's worth doing.
I was kind of surprised last summer when you told me that you were going to go to New York to study acting and stuff. Because I'm pretty sure you weren't a theater guy in school.
Yeah.
And I think the extent of your studying was like reading books. So what was it like, man, going to take acting lessons, at a place?
Yeah, going back to school after 10 years of not having been trained before it was an interesting process because there was stuff I knew, but it was all totally intuitive because I learned it from being on a set. I learned it from watching other people, but I was never told like this is what this theory is called, and this is what this is called, this is what this is called. And then being told, okay, this is the process, and this is how you put it together. I knew it all, I knew what they were talking about, but I'd never seen it put in that organized process, in an organized way for me before. And then also being in an environment where because I've only been acting professionally for the camera to be used on film. I've never just tried stuff, and so it gave me an environment to where I can explore and try to do characters that I normally wouldn't get, or people don't see me as playing normally. So I was trying to play like crazy guys, weird things here, stuff that just to try it, and then have the teacher look at critique based on whether from a subjective point of view.
Was it hard, because you're so used to acting in front of the camera only? Like, was it hard to act like when there wasn't one? Like, did you feel like, oh, now we're just playing or something?
No, I don't think so, because I did one play before in Hong Kong, right? And so that experience totally helped me out in this situation, because that was you're performing live every night in front of 400 people, and that totally did make me so nervous in terms of working in front of these students in class. Plus, everybody is working together. Everyone is doing it. You're not the only one standing up there in front of the whole class by yourself. The guy next to you has got to do it. The girl next to you has got to do it next. So once it's established atmospheres like that, it's pretty easy.
I hear a lot of talking out there. If you guys are sick of us, we can just, Dan and I can go to the coffee shop and talk to each other. So, are you still into this? Yeah? Okay, just making sure. Also, I was wondering, as far as learning all these techniques and stuff, it must have been really interesting because you went through all these different directors, but you probably didn't know exactly where they were coming from, and then suddenly things start to fall in place.
Yeah, a little bit too, and also, it did all kind of fall in place and it made things much more clearer for me. Because I am actually a lot more of a logical person than an intuitive person, but because I had to learn acting that way, I was forced to be intuitive, so it helped make everything make sense and it all gelled together. And that was a major breakthrough for me. But I haven't actually, since I've been in the school, I haven't actually worked yet. So I'm very eager right now to sort of get working again.
I was going to say that's the irony. You know, you did all this practicing and learning, and then you cracked your ankles.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in this kind of cool movie with this French Vietnamese director, and Josh Hartnett was going to star in it, and I played this supporting role in it. It was a very kind of perfect film to try the stuff that I was learning in school, and then I broke my leg last week of school, and I had to back out of the movie in the last minute.
You got to tell guys here what happened in case they don't read your blog on their own life.
I was skateboarding to school, something I don't have the luxury to do in Hong Kong anymore, and that you kind of really don't want to do in Hong Kong because Hong Kong's not a cool place to skate on the street, like in the traffic with minibuses and taxis driving around all over the place. And New York is probably pretty scary too to skate, but it's much better than Hong Kong. So I was just going to school in the morning and I got a speed wobble and fell. It was weird because it was something that normally you could just save yourself on by jumping off the board, and that's exactly what I did. But when my foot came down, it came down this weird angle and just snapped. My ankle just snapped. And I just was sitting there on the floor going, oh God, I'm 33 years old and I just crashed on a skateboard. You know, how am I going to explain this to everybody? But you know, which happens. You know, shit happens.
What did you tell your manager? What did you say to you?
I think they were more worried about me than my career issues. You know, I think that's if they were mad at me for that, I think they really incentive. I think, but yeah, it wasn't that big a deal. But I was more mad at myself. I didn't make myself in that situation. So if I'm gonna retire from skateboarding, it's just like what's his name, Chris Lee, right? The actor.
Oh yeah.
He was a pro skater before, right? Jason Lee, sorry, Jason Lee. He was a pro skater before, and I heard that he's not allowed to skate. Is that true? Does anyone know that?
I'm pretty sure.
Like he has it in his contract, he's not allowed to skate because if he gets hurt filming, they get screwed, right? I mean, there's hundreds of people on the set relying on you to show up to work. If you don't show up, you can screw up a whole movie or anything.
And yet you, a lot of guys were out playing basketball, which is like way more dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But skateboarding to people who don't skate, I think it's really dangerous.
Yeah, these guys, when the Rockets played that NBA game.
Oh no, it was a different game.
Or was it a different one?
It was the NBA just came to Hong Kong.
Okay, you were wearing Rockets jerseys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the boy band went out and played ball, right?
Yeah, it was all a bunch of pop stars playing ball against each other.
So did you kick their asses coming from the Bay Area?
No, we lost at one point. I was pretty mad about that actually. Because our star player decided to be nice and not dunk on people. He could dunk. And he didn't dunk on anybody. If he did, we would have won.
The Yao Ming syndrome, huh? So tell me, I guess the question everybody wants to know is, testing out Hollywood, and what would it take to make you even consider coming out here?
This is an interesting question because in the past couple of months I've been meeting all these people that are telling me you have to do it.
Have to?
Yeah, I have to do it. I don't know why actually, but I think, being fluent in English is definitely a plus. And then also having an experience that I have in Asia that, I've done 41 movies in 10 years. I think it's quite a lot more experience than most Asian American actors get here, and I think a lot of people say I have to because I think from a business point of view, a lot of people think it has a lot of value because I already have a fan base in China and Taiwan and Hong Kong and all over Asia, right? So that makes, if I get put in a Hollywood production as a, supporting character, that makes that film more valuable in Asia. Because I don't know, this is all business talk really. But, it would take a good script really to get me back, a good character. Because I don't really have this desire to be to come back here just for the sake of doing a Hollywood movie. It's funny because everyone thinks Hollywood is the best. It's not the best, really. They have a lot of money, but they make crappy films too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like, this is the time you want to stay in Hong Kong, so you're getting all these rad movies made. It seems like your selection process is a lot easier now.
So yeah, it's a very hard decision for me to try to want to come back here when I'm really having a great time in Hong Kong right now and getting really choice projects and really getting myself challenged as an actor now. Before, they wanted me in all these pretty boy roles, but now I'm getting roles that are more character-based and to really build up a certain reputation. So it's kind of I'm not really sure what I should do now. So really, I guess it would take someone to give me just a good offer.
What about the other side of the camera? Because, Heavenly Kings, which we saw to start with, that did, pretty well. It was well received.
Yeah.
Does that make you want to get on that
Yeah, I definitely, I got the bug from doing that project, and that really kind of, the way that came to be was like we were looking for directors to direct it for us, and no one really got what we were trying to do. They wanted to turn it into a typical like Hong Kong comedy, which is totally not what we wanted. They didn't understand the mockumentary format and all that stuff. So I ended up directing by default because no one else got it. And then I really enjoyed that process because I guess from the architecture background and having control over everything, it was just fun. It was fun making it and putting this thing together, especially into the editing room where we're like sifting through 300 hours of footage to make this a 1.5 hour thing. That was a really fun process. So I've definitely, and then also winning that award kind of gave me a little bit of confidence to want to do it some more.
I think people don't know that even before that, you did a bunch of videos for like LMF, and you actually, and
yeah, I dabbled in that stuff. I mean, the cool thing about technology today is anybody can do it. You just get like that little video camera right there, and you can make a short film yourself, and you can make a long film if you want. I mean, you may not sell it to anybody, but at least you're getting experience of making something, whereas you didn't have that in the film world like 20 years ago or 10 years ago because you were stuck with the cost of making film, right, and processing it and cutting it and having to rely on all these people to do it for you, or relying on this equipment that's really expensive. But now with a laptop and a DV camera, you can make anything, And basically that's what we did for Heavenly Kings. We had 2 video cameras and we did it on a G4, this piece of crap G4, and it barely hung on until the end. I mean, it was crashing hard at the end, but we did it just because we were cheapskates and we didn't want to buy a G5. You can do that now, and I think I'm working on my next project now. I don't think I've told you this, but I'm working on a script right now. It'll be a narrative film this time. It won't be a documentary, but it's not going to be a mainstream project because I think as an actor, I get put in mainstream films all the time. I want to, as a creator or as a director, I want to tell my own stories, which are not mainstream. I'm not really a mainstream thinker, as you might know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really makes your career stand out, I think. Because there are a lot of actors who, they're great at acting, but to find something else, and it's hard to express yourself, I think, just acting, saying other people's lines, right? But when you get to make your own movie, like actually you're getting to make a statement about society or the industry or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, when you're acting, you're making a statement based on how you interpret the text, right? And the text is someone else's idea, someone else's vision, and you interpolate off of that. But as a director, like the Heavenly Kings, that whole idea was ours, and this whole statement we made was ours. And so there's a whole different satisfaction in that, And it's powerful. It's really powerful. I mean, just by the reaction that it made in Hong Kong, I was totally just blown away by it. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't know that it was going to have that huge of a kind of splash in the pond.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference that you have something to say. And I think I'll end it with this because we're running out of time. But the thing about Dan, I guess most actors, they don't have anything to say, man. I mean, they just read voices and actresses. They're so boring to interview and stuff. But Dan really, he's more than that. He's like, he's always a filmmaker and he has ideas and criticisms. And, that's one of the things that we really like about him. And we really appreciate him coming out and sharing his ideas and reflections. And, yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, guys.